And welcome to the Exo everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the Exo. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight. And then the rest of the week, the best of, at www.exoneradiotv.com. My guest tonight is a gentleman we've had the pleasure of having on the show many times before. His name is Doug Elwell, and we're talking to Doug from Chicago, Illinois. And we're going to be talking about creation, Nativity and End-Times in Planet X, the sign of the Son of Man. And we're also going to be talking about the end of age. Now, these were written over a period of 22 years. Planet X represents literally decades of cutting-edge research into the Bible, ancient, near religious Eastern religion, and both ancient and modern astrology. Planet X presents powerful and compelling evidence that the most critical events of the Bible, the creation of the heavens and earth, the birth of Christ, and his second coming, are all three bound together by the regular reappearance of a mysterious 10th planet in our solar system. Now, this mysterious planet, dubbed Modern X by modern astronomers who have been searching for it over a century, is believed by some to be responsible for the creation of Earth in its present form. Planet X presents compelling evidence that this mysterious 10th planet was used by God not only to create the heavens and earth, but also to herald the birth of Christ as the Star of Bethlehem, and to herald his return in the end times as the sign of the Son of Man and the end of the age. Joining me again from Chicago, Illinois, is Doug Elwell. And Doug, always great talking to you. Here we are, 3 years after the Mayan calendar and what many people thought was going to be the return of Planet X. What is the difference between the Planet X that you write about and the Planet X Nibiru that New Age spiritualists believe in?
The Planet X I write about is based on actual science instead of Zechariah Sitchin's speculation on Sumerian texts and their astronomical interpretation, which is only peripherally related to what scientists talk about Planet X. Planet X is actually a mainstream scientific theory which has been around for over 100 years, which astronomers, when they were searching for planets beyond Neptune, dubbed this a theoretical planet that they believed may be beyond Neptune as Planet X. The X simply standing for unknown, as right, like it does in an equation for algebra. Mm-hmm. But the term Planet X takes on kind of a mystical, science fiction-y feel over time because people like that sort of thing. It appeals to them. And there are, the Man from Planet X movie, and Planet X shows up in various comic books and serials and science fiction type things. Over time, it takes on a kind of an unreal and science fiction-y feel, which degrades its credibility from actually being a mainstream, totally legitimate scientific theory. And one of these unfortunate circumstances is people take Planet X into the realm of the supernatural and the psychic and all this, and make incorrect interpretations about when it's going to be coming by based on a solar flare that their friends said they saw behind the sun, or by the sun when they looked at it at a weird angle. A lot of speculation, a lot of uneducated guessing, which is fine by itself, but in my opinion, you should go on solid science and not speculation.
Doug, when do you think, based on the research that you've done, and you've done quite a bit of studying, if my memory serves me correct, you have a theological background, you're a publisher. What does your research tell you when the next time Planet X will be making a visit to this planet?
I don't know the exact time, but I do believe it has a roughly 2,000-year orbit. Because I think the last time it showed up, it appeared in the sky as the Star of Bethlehem event, which preceded the first coming, or the birth of Christ. And there was also an additional event in the, I think it's Apocalypse of Abraham, or the Testament of Abraham. One of the apocryphal literatures regarding Abraham is that his birth was also preceded by a star, and he was born around 2000 BC. And if we indeed have a star or a sign appearing in the heavens to precede Christ's second coming, which he describes in Matthew 24:30, that would be roughly 2,000 years after its last appearance. So we have appearances of stars preceding major events, particularly the birth of major biblical figures, and in one case, his return. My theory is that this is a planet that is returning every 2,000 years, 2000 BC, 0 AD, and then 2000 AD plus maybe 20 years. This is actually a planet that has a roughly 2,000-year orbit that brings it around every 2,000 years or so. And also the Sumerians worshipped a planet like this and talked about it in their ancient texts. And it was prominently featured in their literature and also their symbology. In fact, the sign of their high god Anu, also in their symbology, their cuneiform texts are actually made up of symbols and not letters. The sign for the heavenly god Anu, the chief of their pantheon, is actually that of an 8-rayed star. And moreover, the symbol for star in their symbology also means God. And so in the idea of a star being a god was central to the belief systems of the ancient Sumerians. And their ancient records show there might have been an additional appearance of this planet or star, most likely a planet, around 4000 BC or sometime around that time. So I think based on that, it's reasonable to assert, plus the fact that scientists are looking for such a planet, real scientists with a legitimate search, because that's the only way they can explain the anomalies in the outer solar system. That Planet X comes around every roughly 2,000 years, bringing with it major events, catastrophes, or in some cases, miracles.
Whoops. So the hypothesis or the theory that Planet X was actually the Star of Bethlehem, how did you come to this conclusion, Doug?
Well, I kind of assumed that if Jesus was preceded by astral sign at his birth, that maybe it would come back when he returned, because that was kind of his logo, his symbol. And there is in Matthew 24:30 in the Bible, the Christian Bible, a description of the sign of the Son of Man appearing in the heavens right before the resurrection event and Jesus returning and so forth. And I thought, well, maybe what if that was actually the same sign or even the same object? How could that be the same object? And so I determined maybe that was the same sign. So I looked at the Star of Bethlehem material and the research by various scientists and people who know enough about science to write intelligently on the subject, scholars who have science as a secondary understanding. They believed it was either a supernova, a conjunction of planets, or possibly a comet as one of those three things. That's what most of them believe. I've heard it described as a supernatural event or the appearance of an angel. Some people even think it was a UFO or something. But by far the most common ones are conjunction of planets, a supernova, or a comet. And so I looked at those three possibilities. The supernova was interesting, and there were, I think, a couple of novas in that going off in the sky around that time. But novas only last a couple of days, and the travel of the Magi from Persia to Bethlehem would have taken probably at least a couple of weeks, so they couldn't have followed that star the entire time because it was just it was too transitory. It didn't last long enough. Also, the star was said to move before them, and they were able to follow it. All stars move. This one was special though because it moved contrary to the background stars, indicating it was an object in our solar system. So that made it to be either a planet-sized object or a comet. So for a couple of significant reasons, the supernova idea doesn't really work. Conjunction of planets, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is the most commonly put forward theory. But that happens every few hundred years, and it actually happened, I think, about 10 years ago, and relatively recently. And I actually watched the events over a period of days, and it wasn't very spectacular. In fact, Jupiter and Saturn never actually touched each other. They didn't create a really bright star as a result. They just kind of were close to each other. In a couple of days, they moved away, and a week later, it was totally gone. And it wasn't particularly notable in any way. And it wasn't even unique. It happens once every few hundred years. So that I didn't feel was really appropriate. Plus, it was kind of astrological, which wasn't really appropriate either. And the idea of a comet being the Star of Bethlehem, those are kind of transitory too. They don't last very long. And also, they're usually omens of disasters and not of births of kings, for example. So
right.
It wasn't really appropriate. So it could have been like a comet. My theory is it's actually a planet that looks something like a comet, but it has a much longer orbit. And it stays in our solar system for longer, and it is visible for longer, and it's much brighter. And since the Magi would have inherited the Babylonian creation tradition, being the ancient scholars that they were, they probably understood that this was the same star or planet that the Babylonians and Sumerians and so forth worshipped, and then recognized on its appearance that God himself may have come down to earth, in this case in the form of a child. And so they visited to see what this was all about. They found the Christ child and gave him the appropriate gifts appropriate to his kingship. Mm-hmm. And there we have the story of Matthew 2.
How has the story changed in our new society? Has the story changed at all, or does the story stay the same?
For the Star of Bethlehem?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think it's changed that much. It's taken on various modifications over time. For example, the idea of three wise men, it never says there were three. It just says that they were wise men. It is not specific about the number of them. And so the idea of there being Balthasar, Melchior, and Caspar, they were from Asia, Africa, and Europe, respectively, and so forth. That was later Christian writings by people who speculated on the birth of Christ and how it actually happened and why. And that's an example of how society changes the stories over time. But the fact of the matter is that it wasn't really very specific on the number of magi. And so that's one example of how society kind of adds to it. It becomes part of legendary Christmas and things like that, where people add their ideas, and it becomes mythical rather than factual, much like the Planet X New Age theories that go around, because they're based on people's speculation. People will interweave them into their 2012 theories or their end of the world theories, and kind of get onto the Planet X bandwagon to get attention to their own beliefs.
Doug, more and more people, it seems, are coming up with the end of the world scenarios. In your opinion, as a scholar and as someone who's studied theology, why is there such hype about the end of the world scenarios, like Mayan calendar, herald camping, and the list goes on and on and on?
People want to live in an ideal society. They want to be perfect and live forever. And they want to be happy and healthy and whole forever. And this is the desire behind end of the world. For most people, they want to transition into a world where there's no pain and suffering and death. And that is why people, in a weird way, look forward to a disaster, because afterwards will come bliss and perfection forever. So it's kind of like, maybe working out or eating healthy food. It's not as pleasant as being lazy and eating junk food, but it has a beneficial effect afterwards. So people see the end times as a kind of a rough period you have to go through in order to get something better afterwards. And so I think that's their major motivation, is the desire for happiness on a permanent basis and security and so forth. Some of them are just mentally ill and think everything is disaster. So people kind of enjoy being scared by end of the world scenarios. People like horror stories and films because it scares them. And so it gives them an adrenaline rush. Hormones are released. You get a rush off of it, and some people like that aspect of it too. There's people call it fear porn. There's a market for that, and some people exploit that. I try not to do that, but I be more hopeful and talking about the positive aspects of Planet X. But also, there is the negative aspect of it too. Is those who are not in line with God's will, in my opinion, might be destroyed by Planet X rather than be saved by it.
Speaking about God, let's just take a look at the world today. We've got so much strife and so much turmoil. We've got the Muslims who are behind ISIS, and we have, it seems that the old crusade wars are starting all over again. We have Christians against Muslims, Muslims against Christians, and it's not all Christians, it's not all Muslims, and yet it seems that the serpent has raised its head once again in the name of ISIS.
You have to wonder that the timing of it all and where they came from. Some people speculate that this was actually a CIA operation to give us an excuse to invade the Middle East and take it over, which I suspect that is the actual possibility, because
Really?
ISIS came out of nowhere. A lot of people have pointed out that it was really, really unexpected, and the timing was suspect, and the effect of it is possibly to the benefit of the West. Like I said, it would give us an excuse as part of the war on terror to actually invade the Middle East and take it over, which I think is part of our desire. And moreover, in the book of Daniel, it says that the willful king will actually conquer that entire region in the end times as part of his takeover of the world. It says, if I could find it, I'll see if I can find the particular verse, but it says in the book of Daniel that the person called the willful king will actually conquer the Middle East all the way from Afghanistan all the way down to the Sudan in Africa, skipping over certain areas, including what is now Saudi Arabia and Jordan, which are allies of the West. The rest of these regions are taken over by Muslim extremists, which means they might need to be conquered for our own safety. And I think that might be part of a larger plan for the West to take over the world and convert it into something which may not be as desirable as that might sound. Sinister forces might be working behind the scenes in order to take away our rights, and this might be part of the process.
Has there always been such great tension in the Middle East when it comes to Israel and Iran? And if so, why?
Israel and Iran, Israel's been having problems with Iran off and on for years. There's nothing new here. The Arabs are constantly attacked, and though technically the Iranians are actually Persians, all those people in that area were all did not want Israel to come back, and it fought against them regularly in order to try to get rid of them. And this is just yet another attempt, I think, probably by the Russians to take over this area and communize the area possibly in relation with the willing peoples who live among the Arabs, the Muslims. So they may have their people down there. We might have our people working in there, and both of us, both the West and the East, Russia and the United States, have designs on this region and are using various different methods to try to take it over. And Iran is a proxy, is apparently a proxy of Russia right now.
And it seems that the entire world is getting on edge. It's like watching somebody walk on eggshells. You've got President Putin, who is now putting more missile batteries and more missile regiments on the western side. He is saying that NATO is a threat to Russia. You've got Iran, who yesterday arrested 10 American sailors and took pictures of them giving up with their hands up, weapons taken away, and put it around the world. Yesterday, during the State of the Union address, President Obama didn't even mention that. You've got the problems in North Korea with the hydrogen bomb and China building up their fleet, building up islands. You know, it's a crazy world.
Yeah, I was. If you remember, if you notice, they're actually in Syria right now, and that's right on the northern border of Israel. A lot of people have speculated that Putin is Gog of the land of Magog, mentioned in Ezekiel 37, I think 37 or 38 or both. And the fact is, he's basically worked his way down all the way through the Caucasus, through Iran and near Turkey, all the way down into Syria. Now they're working their way all the way down to Israel. It's a possibility that he's trying to set up an invasion of Israel, which would fulfill the prophecy of Ezekiel, where it says that Gog would come forth from the northlands, land of Magog, which is believed to be Russia by most scholars. And it doesn't say it happens all at once. It might be something that happens over a period of time. And I have myself in A Mysterious World, which is at mysteriousworld.com, wrote an article once about Putin being Gog and talked about how his ancestry appears to be at least partly German. And Gog and Magog are actually the sons of Japheth, the son of Noah. Gomer and Magog. Gomer was shortened to Gog, so it rhymed with Magog. And these peoples, Gomer and Magog, or Gog and Magog, actually comprised the majority of the northern peoples. Gomer was the west and Magog the east. The Russians are descended from Magog. So the Gog of the land of Magog, in that sense, would have been a German who lived in Russia, or maybe ruled over Russia. And so when the Bible says Gog of the land of Magog, it doesn't really mean that there is a leader of Russia who is actually German who will attack Israel. And Putin appears to be at least partly German, because his household, actually, when he grew up, actually spoke German. And he may have been a descendant of some German artisans that Empress Catherine the Great brought in from Germany to help build a group of artisans of high quality that would be within Moscow to help build up their artisan community. And probably Putin is a descendant of one of those. So that is probably the fulfillment of the prophecy of Ezekiel 38. And now we have this German leader of Russian forces poised right in the northern border of Israel. This is the first time this has happened maybe in recorded history. Doesn't take a genius to figure out there's something up here.
Yeah. They were speculating that Putin is going to offer the leader, who's the leader of Syria? Greg?
Oh,
yeah,
I know who you mean. Yeah.
All right, but apparently Putin Assad, that's it. Apparently Putin is paving the way to give Assad safe conduct into Russia, and
that's possible.
Yeah, he even said today that he sees Assad more of a welcomed person to Russia than Snowden was. So that was a real poke to the U.S.
Yeah, he was their puppet for a long time, and now they're protecting him. ISIS, some think, may have been a puppet of Western powers, and so they had to attack ISIS in order to rescue their man and their resources and control of that area. So we're kind of fighting a proxy war, not unlike Vietnam or Korea, right now with Russia.
What do you think is going to be the ultimate result? Do you see that this is going to, what we're seeing today, is going to be the opening of the final days as written in the Bible in the book of Revelations?
It could be. Usually there's the definition of the end times is defined by most evangelicals as the signing of a 7-year treaty. This is described in the book of Daniel, where the willful king will sign a covenant for 7 years. And in the midst of that covenant, he will break the covenant and attack Israel and attempt or actually take it over, and seat himself on top of the inside of the temple that will have been rebuilt by that time, and declare himself to be God. This is some people think that the back and forth between Putin and Obama is part of the setup for the inevitability of a powerful Western leader to rise to offset the chaos that these two will cause. And so some people think that Obama might himself be a puppet for a darker power behind the scenes who is using him as a stalking horse to have an excuse to basically conquer the world.
Do you think that there is a shadow government and that there is a new world order, Doug?
I do think that. I think there's a Spectre-like organization, like in the James Bond film, that is working behind the scenes to playing out the various sides against each other to gain advantage and game them so it comes to an outcome that they desire with, at the same time expending minimal time and effort. So they can manipulate both sides, both the major sides and many of the minor players possibly, with the end result that they'll achieve a goal of world domination by proxy. So it's basically proxies and proxies of proxies who are working amongst each other to working down the chain to control the earth. And at the very top, you have a handful of people running everything.
if we are we supposed to take the Bible verbatim, or are we supposed to look at the Bible as a book of possibilities?
It really depends on your point of view, I guess. The Bible is believed to be the true and accurate Word of God by those who believe in it. But those who do not believe in it, it may be seen as a guidebook for good morals or possible future outcomes. It really depends on your point of view. I believe it's the true and accurate Word of God as a Christian, but I cannot prove it, so I just support it, but I cannot prove it, so I just encourage people to believe it without trying to force my opinion upon them.
It is a great book, no two ways about it. Valuable lessons. Mm-hmm. And if people were just to follow the 10 Commandments, like, holy cow, all the rules are right then and there. So just teaches you how to be a better person. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, do not steal, do not kill, do not bear false witness.
Exactly.
We could, and in the past we couldn't always account for that. And in some cases, some of the peoples not only did not necessarily believe that lying was bad, some of them in their darkest periods of decadence actually believed that lying, cheating, killing, and stealing was a good thing because it actually promoted your own self-interest and give you an advantage over others. The ancient Canaanites were like that, particularly the Amorites. It was part of the reason that God made war on them because not only were they wicked, totally corrupt, they were actively propagating this point of view on all of the people they conquered. And so inevitably they would have corrupted the entire world into a state full of self-centered jerks, which would have been basically a hell on earth.
Doug, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Sounds like you're drinking something nice and cool there, my friend.
I am.
Attaboy. Exo Nation, Doug Elwell is our very special guest this first hour of tonight's show, www.dougelwell.com. And we've been talking about Planet X, the sign of the son of the man, and the end of the age. Once again, www.dougelwell.com. And Doug and I will be back on the other side of the short break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Jeff Gilson didn't go out looking for adventure, danger, or the answers to most of the controversial political intrigues of the past 30 years. But he found all three when he began investigating the mysterious death of his close friend, Margaret Thatcher's favorite speechwriter. Just an ordinary guy living in a small, sleepy suburb 20 miles outside of London, Jeff's questions provoked a powerful response on both sides of the Atlantic. He was shot at, warned off by the CIA, and formed a close bond with one of Israel's most notorious intelligence officers. Relive Jeff's gripping adventure in his fast-paced book, Maggies Hammer. Peel away the layers of establishment deception and discover, as Jeff did, that his friend was an assassin with British intelligence, that Great Britain has been America's secret hitman for the past 30 years, and that Princess Diana was not the target in that Parisian tunnel. All of this and more when you visit www.maggieshammer.com and find the link to buying this explosive book online. More and more ordinary people feel they no longer have control of their lives. Jeff fought back. He asked the difficult questions. He set out to redesign his own destiny, and you can do the same using Maggie's Hammer as your guide. Don't waste a moment. Buy it today. Visit www.maggieshammer.com.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wieka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Exo Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
What if Jesus came back now and insisted that we listen to him? How would the world be different if Christians really followed the Gospels? For 2,000 years, we've been practicing a religion. Now it's finally time to get it right. Read Liberating Jesus, new from Roberta Grimes. Meet the Jesus you never knew. Roberta uses afterlife evidence and biblical analysis to prove that Jesus is exactly right. Learning the lessons that he came to teach is the reason we are born at all. Roberta says he has come back now to insist that we actually listen to him so we can begin to use his teachings to unite and transform the world. Liberating Jesus wherever books are sold. Jesus has the answers, and it's not too late. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. The Carl O. Helvey Holistic Cancer Foundation is a new nonprofit foundation that focuses on a holistic approach to cancer that includes physical, mental, spiritual, and political aspects. Cancer education, research, and care are provided for all types of cancer patients. You can listen to interviews with cancer doctors and survivors and read research on holistic aspects of cancer at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. That's www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. Linnea Star began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Star does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Star does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Star or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. You're listening to the Exo Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. The X-Zone TV show that we broadcast in 2015 is now available at www.xzonetv.com. There are 12 episodes there in their entirety. To watch them all, you have to do is just go to www.xzonetv.com. Let me see. We have Michael Horn, Dr. Joe Mara. We have Donald K. Preston, Jose Escamilla, Stanton Friedman, Stephen Bassett, just to name a few. For the entire list, and you can watch the complete series of 12 shows. They're about a half hour each at www.xzonetv.com. Doug Elwell is our guest. He is in the Windy City of Chicago. And Doug, this is a very... This is an off-topic question, but I've always known you to be a very honest and direct man. So I have to ask you, Doug, what do you think of the presidential race that you in the States are facing right now? You know, you've got on one side the Democratic Party leaders who are Bernie Siegel and Secretary Clinton, and on the Republican side you have the two leaders are Senator Cruz and Donald K. Trump. Mm-hmm. What's your take on what's going on politically?
In my opinion, Trump will win.
Yeah.
He will become the Antichrist. And Hillary will fight him and be destroyed. She is the whore of Bethlehem in the biblical scheme. Some people have speculated Obama is the Antichrist. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Trump.
Yeah.
So he fits the description of a willful king, someone who's extremely arrogant and is warlike, and the timing is right, the kind of person is right. He'll have to clean up the mess that Obama has made and will continue to make. Possibly he may have some surprises in his bag before he leaves office. If so, Trump will be forced to take extreme measures, which will be part of a larger plan for him to conquer the world as the Antichrist.
This is what I love about you, Doug. I ask you a direct question, you give me an honest answer. You don't skate around the facts.
That is what I think. Thank you, and you're welcome.
And you know what? I happen to agree with you. I really do. Mm-hmm. Because Trump is saying what everyone is thinking. It may not be right, but he's still saying it.
Right.
You know, and...
right. What it is there was a setup. They found the worst guy they could possibly find that the typical American would hate the most, which is Obama.
Right.
They created him to be, the antithesis of what our Americans... conservative Americans think is good, and he sets it up so everything is being corrupted, and non-family values are being put in place, and so forth. This requires the need for a powerful leader, a savior, to save us from the disasters that are happening. Some people think he may even be behind ISIS, and there might be his operatives in the Middle East, and some of them may even be in America, ready to be triggered at a moment's notice in order to forward his goals of destroying America. And this situation, there might be various levels of belief system, levels of puppet mastering, like I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Obama might not know he's being used. And the powers that be at the top level set up Obama to create a chaotic situation, and they'll bring up Trump, set up Trump to fix it. It's order out of chaos, problem, reaction, solution. Create a problem, and then take credit for the solution. And that's how these people operate. The powers that be, the wicked powers in heavenly places that rule over the archons, the principalities, those who rule over the earth, the fallen angels. This is how they typically operate, because they're essentially spiritual parasites who cannot exist without a host to feed off of. They create situations where they are required and then enslave people in the process of, quote-unquote, saving them.
Would the racial unrest that we're seeing as well, that seems to be growing in the United States, part of this plan?
Yes, they are purposely setting off racial incidents in order to destabilize America and drain our resources. This is the Eastern strategy. The Muslims and Asians in general use death by 1,000 cuts approach to weaken the opponent prior to the actual attack, to reduce their effectiveness and potential for winning. And so at the appropriate times, you'll see various people, various groups rioting, not just African Americans, all kinds of different groups, disgruntled white Americans. We have a group of extremists. I think there was in a forest recently that were refusing to leave. That might be something that was set up by a subversive group in order to cause problems. It's all about causing problems, draining resources, wasting time and money, pointless activity, which which accomplishes only chaos. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create chaos to bring out order on top of it.
It seems that they're trying to create these diversions so that the people really have no idea what's going on. You know, like, hey, take a look at what's going on in the Middle East, and while you're looking at the Middle East, you don't see what's going on in the West. You know, with China, North Korea, and so on.
You distract them on one hand while you pick their pocket with the other.
Yep.
That's the typical way that disingenuous, unethical, evil people operate. And those who have dealt with evil people know how completely corrupt and above accountability they think they are. And so using people is part of the method they use. And losing people in an uprising or fighting people, losing people in a war, as long as they achieve their goals, it doesn't matter how many people die. And that's one of the great dangers of psychotic leadership of that nature.
What about the economic picture right now? Look at what's oil is less than $30 a barrel. Wow. Like, this is going to just kick the pants out of the economy. The head of the Canadian economy got on the airwaves the other day, and he says, you know, with the price of gas going down, we're losing billions of dollars in revenue. Well, you guys, the government is losing because you're taxed on top of tax on top of tax on top of tax. But it's great for the consumer.
Well, this is the way that the powers behind the scenes manipulate events, because you can cause political change by economic change. People will vote in people who will keep the prices low. Right. And if there's a problem with the economy, they'll vote in different people. You can game the system by looking at analyzing the statistics over time. So if you raise the price of oil or make something scarce, put the right person here, take the right person out of there in terms of politics, you can set up a situation where you can remote control the system simply by pressing a few buttons and installing or removing one or two people. And if you understand the system well enough and you've analyzed it, you have adequate power, money, and connections to make it happen, you can rule the world from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. I found it rather ironic that Senator Cruz was going after Wall Street, about the big banks, about Goldman Sachs and this and that and the other thing, just to find out that he had borrowed money from these people to get into his governor, to win his senator spot. And then, you've got, doesn't he realize that people are going to really start vetting everything he does, everything he says, everywhere he's been? Like, this affects the credibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Who are we talking about exactly? One more time?
Senator Cruz.
Cruz, okay, yeah, I was wondering. Yeah. Is he actually Canadian, do you know? Or is
he was born in Canada. He was born in Canada. His mother was an American citizen. His father was Cuban. He was born here in Canada. Okay. And apparently, I forget the year that he gave up his Canadian citizenship, but he became... Okay. So whether or not he is a Canadian or was a Canadian, I really don't think that has any bearings on his ability to be president of the United States, because so many other, who was it? McCain was born in Panama in the American militarized zone.
Yeah. Was his mother a natural-born American citizen?
I don't know. I don't know that, Doug. Who, Cruz?
Because unless she... Good.
Who, Cruz's mother?
Yes.
Yes, she was.
Okay, well, that's where his citizenship comes from. And he can choose to become a Canadian, but his native-born citizenship is American because his mother was American, unless she too gave up her citizenship in order to move to Canada, which I don't know if she did. But if his mother was still an American citizen, the fact that he was born in Canada doesn't necessarily make him a Canadian citizen unless he chooses to be so. But I think one can make the argument that since his mother was American-born, that he is too. So.
Sometimes I think that politicians have way too much time on their hands.
Well, a lot of these people spend all their time just campaigning, very little time actually passing laws. The problem is the way the system is they have to, because in order to be competitive, you have to be on the road all the time. And missing one campaign stop can make the difference for one area, and the one area can make the difference for a state, and then one state can make a difference for the election. So you have to be on the ball all the time. And I don't envy them, because they have to work very hard and be up, moving around all the time. It's actually probably pretty taxing. That's for a reason the presidents age so much in office, because they're constantly under stress.
Maybe you can help us understand. I mean, our listeners north of the 49th parallel and around the world, when we hear about Iowa and New Hampshire, these caucuses, why do the candidates have to go to these caucuses to be elected as candidates? I don't understand that.
Why the caucus system?
Yes.
It's just it's a buffer to help make sure that a popular vote, sometimes there are wild swings in popularity based. That could be people who be manipulated by the media or events and make decisions that are rash. The caucus system is to provide a buffer to say change takes place over time, and so if you want. These caucuses are representational, so they represent the public mood, and they can be swung by popular mood, but they tend to be much more stable. So this is more of a stabilizing force, which keeps things a little more steady, like a governor in an engine. It keeps things running more smoothly and reduces wear and friction on the system.
So let me understand this. Do all the candidates have to go to the different states to get elected for their party? I'm not. I don't remember exactly, but basically, there's a runoff in every state for the Democratic and Republican, seats. And once they win the majority of the votes, if they have a large majority, I think they'll automatically be elected unless there's some kind of a turnover in the convention. Sometimes if there's a runoff, the heads of the convention, I believe, can actually choose the person. So there was some question as to, even though Donald Trump was way ahead in the polls, they could do some backdoor shenanigans and put someone else in there at the actual convention. Wow.
That sort of thing can happen. I think it has. So it's not all over. Popular vote just gives a momentum, and the Republican or Democratic leadership will most likely go with the majority. But if it's close, or they just don't like the candidate at all, there's a possibility they could engineer things against that person. And like I was saying before, there's ways to manipulate the system, any system, that can guarantee an outcome if you plan it right. So. There is a way to keep Trump from taking over, but I suspect he will.
My producer said, "Hey, Rob, I thought that we brought Doug Elwell on the show to talk about his books," and I just typed him a message. Well, that's because if I ask Doug an honest question, I'm going to get an honest answer, so I may as well get all my questions in now with this guest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
One more question for you, Doug, and once again, I appreciate you allowing me to deviate from the topic, because you're going to be on again in the future.
Okay.
Jeb Bush, how is he staying in? Like, this guy's at the bottom of the barrel, and he's spent millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, and yet he's still hanging in there. I give him credit for his tenacity, but I also have to give him a kick in the head for his stupidity.
I don't know. I guess he figures he can jerry-rig the election at the convention, like I mentioned. He's got a lot of inside connections. He's more of an establishment favorite.
Good old boy.
And the convention is more about, the Bush family is well connected from way back. They're a family of politicians, and they have a lot of friends in high places. So he's probably hanging out and waiting for the convention to take place, at which time he will play his strategy and hopefully try to win. So it's not just about the votes. It's also about who you know. And there is a degree, like I said, of governors, various fail-safes and buffers to make sure the system runs smoothly. And that radicals like Trump can't just walk away with the election. There's a possibility that they might take it away if he feels he's not an appropriate candidate for president.
I kind of would like to see Hillary win for one very selfish reason. I'd like to see her in the White House and wonder if she would have an affair with an intern just to get back at Bill.
Yeah, you wonder, but I think she's had plenty of her own affairs, if the rumors are right. So she gets back at him by cheating on him too. It's just they're just more of a political family than an actual marriage couple. It's probably a marriage of convenience for political reasons. You know, they probably love each other. Bill is a well-known philanderer, and so that's just she stayed together because it was politically necessary to do so.
It's do you think the Benghazi event is going to come around to bite her in the butt, as well as her email server that is apparently still being investigated by the FBI?
Yeah, if she actually did delete those emails, that's a federal offense, and she could actually go to jail for it. Problem is that she's so well politically connected and protected, she can almost literally get away with murder at this point. I mean, no one's coming after her. The people who are guarding her are politically powerful and can vote down or threaten anybody who tries to take her out. So, yeah, it's a scary situation to know that someone can operate in a criminal fashion and get away with it.
Well, wait a second. She's
the right out.
Isn't
if
that
she is in fact guilty?
Isn't that what Nixon was doing?
Yeah. Well, he destroyed some tape.
Right.
Yeah, he destroyed evidence.
Yeah.
That was destroying evidence. I think it's an offense, if not a federal one.
And
that was very serious.
And wasn't he pardoned by Gerald Ford?
I think so. Yeah, he was pardoned after the fact, and he was just, which was appropriate. I mean, he was the president, but he was punished. He was forever humiliated in a room office, which was appropriate because he did commit a crime, and you cannot commit crimes even if you're president. If you can, there's something wrong with the system.
Is it too late for the human race, based on what we've been talking about the Bible, the political situation, the religious turmoil? Is it too late for us as a race, in your opinion, Doug, to get our crap together and to live in unity?
I don't think so, but a certain percentage of the human race just doesn't want to get along. And not just in the Middle East. There's people all over the world who have very specific ideas of how life should be lived. And if you're wrong, you are wrong. If you're wrong, you have to be destroyed. I mean, there's just even peaceful religions in past times and philosophies too have had their warlike periods. For example, Buddhism, even though it promotes peace and harmony,
right?
There was a time when the warrior monks of Buddhism spread Buddhism by the edge of the Nagidata. They killed a lot of people, and they were very fierce warriors. Sometimes violence is necessary not only to defend your beliefs, but also to promote them. And even the most peaceful religions have had their periods where violence was a legitimate means of survival, if not promotion. It's not just religion either. Most of the people say religion is the cause of all wars. The fact is, almost all wars are caused by the desire for more money and more territory, more power. That's the real motivation. Religion is used as a shield to give justification for the selfish motives of those who would gain advantage over others by making war on them. So, it's certain people. There are kinds of people, psychopaths, who refuse to give up. I think really all wars are ultimately caused by psychopaths, people who are mentally ill, people who are maybe descended from giants, as I write in my book on the giants. Giants, in my opinion, were actually beings who were designed by sinister forces, fallen angels, call them what you will, to conquer and control the world, and they are made to be naturally psychotic in order to accomplish that goal. Giants are literally incapable, in my studies, were incapable of giving up. They were designed to keep attacking until they were destroyed. Either their opponent was destroyed or they were. And actually, for example, the Sumerian giants, those who lived in Germany in ancient times, who fought against the Romans, when the Romans came up against them, the Sumerians were actually chained together and the giant women of the Germans were behind them with spears and swords to kill any of the men who tried to run from the front line. So the giants were naturally designed for warfare, and I suspect it's their ancestors who were responsible for most of the wars, if not all of them, in human history. So there's more to it than meets the eye. It's not just religion. There might be sinister forces working behind the scenes to modify mankind in order to achieve their own sinister agendas.
Do you remember the movie Billy Jack And that song, One Tin
Yes.
Soldier. Every time I hear somebody talking about justification of religion, this song comes to mind because the chorus is, go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend, do it in the name of heaven. You can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day. On the bloody morning after who, one tin soldier rides away. So whatever you want to do to justify it is just do it in the name of heaven. Or in the name of Allah.
Yeah, well,
whatever.
Your God or philosophy of your choice.
Yeah. Doug, as always, great talking to you, my friend. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and how they can get your books that we're going to talk a lot more about the next time you're on with us.
Sure, no problem. You can get a book, Planet X, The Sign of the Son of Man in the End of the Age, at skywatchtv.com. That's skywatchtv.com. Also available on Amazon.com as a print or Kindle book. You can also get it on order through your local bookstore or get it on barnesnoble.com. You can learn more about my writings about the giants and other ancient mysterious topics at www.mysteriousworld.com. That's www.mysteriousworld.com.
Well,
and also, if you can also join Facebook. There's also a Planet X site. Just type in Planet X into the search engine at top. Or there's also a site called Mysterious World. It's also available on Facebook.
Doug, the next time you're with us, which I hope to be within the next month or so, if it fits into your schedule, I would love to get into the topic of the giants because I find that so fascinating.
Absolutely. I'm writing the book right now.
Yeah.
Finally, it's been a few years working on it off and on. Also building a business on the side. It's not easy to do both.
I understand that, yeah.
But I've talked to the publisher, and we should have it done probably this summer.
Super. Doug Elwell, thank you so much for coming on the show, and to you and yours, my friend, a very happy, healthy, spiritually filled New Year.
You too, Rob.
Take care, Doug. Exo Nation, my guest this hour has been Doug Elwell, www.dougelwell.com. Now, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV, and our radio website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I am Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and we'll return in about 5 minutes from now with our very next guest, another Crackerjack box here in the X Zone. Don't go away.